Lexington Local repeat. So we've been here once with David, but we want to come back and talk more about your services. So this is David Redfield. He lives in Lexington, and he runs a company called Keep Calm and Write the College Essay.
Close. Keep calm and write that essay.
Oh, write that essay.
Close.
I'm not an English major, you can tell. So you like to work with kids going to college.
Absolutely.
Crazy. All right, tell me why.
Well, I've been an educator for 20 years. I was a college counselor out at the International School in Los Angeles. And this is my third year running the private college counseling.
Okay.
And I've realized that of all the steps of educating the kids, I've taught 6th grade English, 8th grade, 9th grade, design classes, that one of the most meaningful portions of their education I can really help them with is this last stage and sort of forming their experiences and presenting them in a way that can help them stand out from the rest of the applicants.
And how do you do that? Because I mean, high school kids
They're tricky.
quiet.
They're tricky. Well, you know, I really encourage an early start if possible.
Okay.
To give us time to, you know, on a very basic level, just getting the student used to having me as part of their schedule. And then to build a rapport, hopefully build some trust, so then we can, you know, really get into some nuances of their character. So I've developed a program that involves a lot of reflective journaling, as well as using different college prompts as a catalyst to sort of really begin to try to dig up their experiences. You'd be surprised how many, or maybe you wouldn't, how many 17-year-olds don't think they've ever faced a challenge or demonstrated leadership. And what I really try to express to them, you know, leadership can be a title, but real leadership also happens in those quiet moments when there's nobody around with a title and you need to make the situation happen. So really getting them to own those things and talk about them is what I really try to do.
But that's tricky, right? I mean, I've had kids who've gone through this process. Like, I mean, they're right, like, you know, how do you make it sound real? Like that the 17-year-old is writing it and it really happened and like it was meaningful, right? Like, you know, if your kid wants to go to Harvard, like, don't you have to like cure cancer, right? Like, oh, and he cured cancer last summer before he like dealt with world peace. Like, how do you like really?
Well, you know, it's not just students who have that trouble. A lot of adults also have trouble when you read the cover letter or resume in terms of really getting an action stance with what they've accomplished. Being able to not present it as though things happened to them, but rather that they made things happen.
So tell me about like a really like interesting scenario or a great scenario, right? Like success stories.
In terms of essays that, or just in general?
Yeah, like
Okay.
the kid, you know, got into his top choices or didn't get in, or you thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard, like what I have to work with here. I don't know.
Well, it's. I mean, I do have firsthand stories, but I think that the anecdote that might serve this conversation well has to do with a college counselor who I met. So this is a first-person experience, and they were in the admissions side at a university, and the music director, the conductor of the orchestra, came to the admissions department and was kind of freaking out because they didn't have a percussionist, a triangle player actually specifically, for next year. The senior was graduating, there was nobody else in line. So the admissions people went back to, and this is back in the days when it was still piles of paper and not just files on your desktop, and went back and scoured for somebody who played the triangle. They found somebody who had been, you know, a university always wants somebody who has the potential to complete 4 years there. So they didn't pull somebody out of the pile that, you know, really couldn't have made it there, but somebody who was on the cusp. And they had managed to, at some point, mention that they played the triangle, and they were subsequently moved into the admitted pile.
Oh.
So really what I try to work with each student is finding that triangle. And you know, there's the main essay, and then there's a bunch of different supplements, and then there's a bunch of places where you can write about your activities. I see that all as one essay, and each different component is a different place to mention something new. And the idea is to get every nuance that you can out there.
Mm-hmm.
So the complete picture is presented to the school.
Mm-hmm.
The way they say it kind of breaks down is that 25% of your application are your grades, 25% of your application are your test scores if you're taking your standardized tests, which is something I don't offer help with. It's not part of my program. And then about half of it are the written supplements in terms of weight and really trying to get the stories out there.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Right?
it's an important part.
That is a big thing. Oh, well, okay. So you will help them come up with a list of schools, or you're like, what is?
Absolutely. Well, I offer different packages.
Okay.
So the main one obviously is a writing portion, covers all the written supplements, the main one, activities, all of that. Another package is just the college and major search.
Okay.
And then a third package that I started to offer this year is just a portfolio preparation and getting ready to present it and have it reviewed if you're a visual arts.
Okay.
I have a background in architecture. Initially, that was my undergraduate. So I can come to the table with a way to kind of help them organize their pieces, which ones to develop, how to talk about them, ask them questions. And then I can also offer that all as one inclusive package. And there's no time, it's not an hourly thing. So a student can meet with me 3 or 4 times in one day, which has happened in the past, just to try to get that written portion out. Or we can, meet once every week, every other week, whatever really works with the student's schedule. I really try to keep true to the keep calm aspect of what I'm doing, where I don't want my part, this role, the whole college thing, to be a layer of stress. So for example, right now, I think the SATs were last weekend. There was a round of SATs. So the juniors that I'm working with right now, we kind of took a couple weeks off, and then we'll make up for it when we get back. But I really try to find a time that really works for when the student isn't going to resent having to see me and is really ready to come to the table with something to talk about and something to develop.
So ideally, when would you first like to see the kid? Like, how early?
I would love to see them in 9th grade.
Wow.
I say that my price is for senior year, and all the other years are free as a way to try to encourage that. Now, that won't be every other week.
No.
We won't even look at college essays or anything like that. It's more just a way, with some reflective journaling, to, I like to put it as leave a trail of breadcrumbs of these. It's really, I have one 9th grader. Finally got my first 9th grader. And basically the extent of what we've been doing so far is, what's the highlight of your week? What's the challenge? What was the most challenging part of your week? And so now we've got about 10 or 12 different ones of those. We've began to expand 1 or 2, practice that type of writing. This type of writing is never taught really in school. I think in the Massachusetts curriculum, there is the This I Believe essay, which is in 8th grade, which is statewide, where that's very much a personal narrative. But everything up until then is really, there's no I in essay. It's not first person. You're writing about the characters. It's literary analysis. It's history. It's many things, but it's not writing about yourself. And that becomes the real challenge for students, because first of all, they're trying to be humble and modest, and this is a portion of what they're trying to do where they need to kind of brag, yet humbly. So that's a fine line. So it becomes, it's a whole different beast. So the earlier I can start with them, the more we can begin to kind of frame experiences and write about them. So when they finally get to the time when they're thinking about, the prompt and the supplements, we hit the ground running and they're in good shape.
So tell me, like, I'm the college admissions, I have a pile, I don't have a pile anymore. So the first 25%, they have to have the grades that would suit the school, and then that pile gets looked at for the other 50%, right? Do they already drop the pile down based on the grades?
Oh, are you referring to how I broke it down 25, 25, and 50?
Yeah.
That was more just what each thing is kind of weighted.
Right.
You're wondering what gets you through the door?
Yeah, so how do I get into they're gonna read the nice essay you helped my kid write?
Right.
Like, do they have to get past that first 25%?
That's actually a really good question, whether or not they look at the applications holistically when they come through the door, or if they look at, I can't imagine this day and age that they're just looking at grades and numbers.
Right.
That they're really trying to get a sense of, maybe they go first to the activities portion and see what, somebody has accomplished in terms of that realm, giving back, being altruistic. Maybe it's clubs, activities, student officers, but again, those are the places where, there's no time or space to be redundant, and you try to get everything down there because you never know, I guess, what that flag is going to be. Yeah.
Right, triangle.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's crazy. Play the triangle. No, that is not what we're getting at. I always thought it was the bass. I used to tell my kids in the symphony, don't be the violinist. Everyone's the violinist. But triangle, that's easy. So what else would you like people to know?
What else would I like people to know? That if your child works with me on this process, that I can ensure that, given the time and space, it can really be a lot less stressful than when you roll into it in September, and you're not only dealing with, picking schools. Probably got an array of at least 10. You've got standardized tests, you've got college visits, you've got all that stuff. If you start early with me, I help plan those schedules out. I keep you in the loop of college fairs and different opportunities to learn more about things, and help you schedule that and just kind of pace it so it becomes not a big tearing your hair out kind of situation. Not that there aren't stressful moments. That would be not fair for me to imply that at all. But it's really helpful. The main feedback I get from the students is that, the way you kind of just kept my toe in the water and just kept me moving forward, had things planned out. That's really what I try to accomplish.
Oh, I want to ask you one other thing. So your students, are they just Lexington based? Do you do it on Zoom? Can it be from outside the area? What is your...
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I have about half of my students are in Lexington. I've got some that are in Woburn, North Reading, Bedford, Belmont.
Okay.
Primarily, I would say it's 95% Zoom and 5% library.
Oh, okay.
I haven't actually had the opportunity to, this will be the backdrop you see through Zoom, but there haven't actually been anybody here. I feel that, especially getting to know the student, or even later on, it's just good to be someplace public and someplace open and easy that we can both meet there, the library in your town or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah.
And he'll travel. Oh.
I will travel.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks, David.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Oh.